Hello everyone and welcome back to our show. I'm your producer Jack Tunney and we're coming to you live on tape from the Sandwich Studio in Oceanside, California. It's March 25th, 2021, and on this day in history, in 1774, the Parliament of the British Empire passed the Boston Port Act, which demanded repayment from the colonists for the nearly $1 million worth of tea that they threw in the harbor. This was the first of the four so-called coercive acts that led to the American Revolution. And just like the Sons of Liberty, the PB&J podcast is spilling the tea today on the For the People Act, which we will cover in the sandwich. Go like our video and subscribe for more content, and make sure to comment down below any questions. Now, without further adu, the hosts of the PB&J podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I just wanted to say real quick, we're really liking this this day in history thing in the intros. If you guys like them, let us know. We're probably just going to keep doing it anyway, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, thanks, Tony.
But yes. I'm Peter Whitehead.
And my name is Brandon Blackman. And the first thing we're going to do is our first bite. Get you right into that sandwich with the first bite. So the first story I want to cover today is a state story for all of my California friends. This is a kind of a testament to how amazing our system really is when you look at it. And this is a credit to the Sons of Liberty and their work. So I really like the history at the beginning because, yeah, this is a system that is built and it works sometimes. So I wanted to talk about the California Supreme Court ruling against bail. So I'm sure many people know that there was a proposition on our last ballot for should California remove bail. That ended up not passing. But this is really interesting because the Supreme Court, and this comes from LA Times, and some of this is the actual ruling. So I'm going to read. The California Supreme Court ruled on Thursday that judges must consider suspects' ability to pay when they set bail. And that essentially requires that indignant defendants be freed unless they are deemed too dangerous to be released awaiting trial. And from the decision itself, this says, the common practice of conditioning freedom solely on whether an arrestee can afford bail is unconstitutional, which is a strong statement. Mm-hmm. It's and some people may say, wait, bail is unconstitutional? Like, it's always been a part of our system. It's always been in our country. How can it be unconstitutional? And I'm going to argue that bail is cruel and unusual.
Damn right. And
I'm going to explain how. And I'm going to use what they argued and the case that, this came from to explain how. The justices continue by saying that, however, what we hold is that where a financial condition is nonetheless necessary, because, I don't know, like a robbery or like fraud or something, I guess, maybe, the court must consider the arrestee's ability to pay the stated amount of bail and may not effectively detain the arrestee solely because the arrestee lacked the resources to post bail. So this is an amazing statement. I'm sure it's like the first... How many states have changed bail? Do you know how many states have done that?
I mean, I don't think that it's something that is like being changed regularly.
Yeah.
I think that it's pretty standard across.
Well, the great thing about having a state system is that when you say something as declarative as may not effectively detain the arrestee solely because the arrestee lacked the resources to post bail and that practice is unconstitutional, I mean, that's just going to make waves across the country. And
it's just California.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so this is the first time that something like this has happened regarding bail.
Yeah, and it's common sense because it's going to become more common sense when I explain the story, but it's still going to allow bail in certain cases, like it just said, maybe if the person, has the ability to pay. Basically, all this is saying that it can't be the only reason that you're kept in jail because you aren't able to pay bail. And it's insane because the median bail amount in California is $50,000.
Yeah.
Which is 5 times higher than the median amount in the rest of the nation. And that comes straight from the ruling. And that just shows that this system can get out of hand really easily. And if someone cannot pay, like, what are they just supposed to do? Just sit in jail? And like, people sit in jail, like we were talking about before the show, like weed laws. Like if you're caught, with weed, you might have to sit in jail and, might have to pay bail. I mean, if you steal something small, all of these minor crimes, crimes of being poor usually, like maybe you forgot to pay a fine, all of these things. And then you end up having to pay a $50,000 fine. It's insane. It's cruel. It's unusual.
Right. So the other thing too is, if you are arrested and you're put in jail holding waiting for your trial, oftentimes if you had a job, you're going to lose it.
Kids.
If you had kids, you're going to lose them. It's brutal because if you can't afford $50,000, let's be real, I can't afford $50,000.
Well, I mean, there's bail bond situations, which is just another trap, right?
Right. Well, yeah, I'd have to put up this house,
exactly,
and my car. Like those putting people in that situation is clearly a flawed method of approaching justice. And
then I'm sure people listening are probably like, oh, what about the bad criminals? What about the bad criminals, or they're going to get out? So this statistic says that 3/4 of jail inmates statewide are unsentenced, meaning that they actually haven't been convicted.
3/4?
Bruh. 3/4 of jail inmates statewide are unsentenced, meaning they haven't actually been convicted and sentenced for a crime. And that's according to the Board of State and Community Corrections. Many have bail set by the courts. So literally a lot of these people are only sitting in jail because they can't pay bail. And nobody.
And for the mega criminals as well, they don't actually post bail for someone like you can't go out on bail if you're charged with like first-degree murder.
I didn't really know that. That's important as well, right?
Yeah. There's some. It's judge's discretion.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, a violent, dangerous criminal like that, they won't give them the opportunity to go out on bail.
Yeah, like a DUI or something.
Yeah.
Or it would be like what I was gonna say next is that the mega criminals, like, it's such a small percentage. Like it literally, like, this proves that it's such a small percentage. These are your people with like your parking tickets and your simple
unpaid
fines.
Parking tickets,
like it's just simple violations, and now you're sitting in jail for months and weeks, even at the minimum weeks. So it's just a system that almost doesn't make sense, and it's also economically inefficient, which I'll explain later. But I want to talk about the case that this came from, because we'll talk about cruel and unusual. The High Court's ruling came in the case of 66-year-old Kenneth Humphrey of San Francisco. And this man was jailed for more than 8 months because he couldn't post $350,000 bail on charges of stealing $5 and a bottle of cologne. $350,000 bail. And I mean, the article goes on to say that this guy was like a repeat, criminal offender, and he kind of had like a tendency to harass his neighbors and stuff. But still, the idea, I mean, it's almost like a devaluation of the numbers, right? 350,000 equals 5, right? Like, how can you say that this is a just system? How can you say that this is a usual system, right? How can you say this is a system that passes the bar of not being cruel and unusual? This is a 66-year-old man who is...
I love the constitutional law out here, dude.
This story's crazy. I mean, and when you were talking about the Constitution earlier, like the fact that these laws and these wordings actually literally affect people's lives, and the fact that just because we have a bail system that has been allowed for a long period of time, then that system should be allowed to go on for longer. This proves that it is unjust. And the interesting thing I'm seeing is that there are cops and the likes kind of getting on board as well, at least California cops. So this is a statement from Karen Pink, and she is the direction of the Chief Probation Officers of California. And that's interesting because probation probably has a lot to do with, getting out and integrating back into the society, right? She says, and it appears to praise the decision. She goes on to say, wealth should play no role in the justice system, and we will continue to fight for a pretrial system that focuses firstly on safety, fairness, and effectiveness for system-involved individuals and our community. I mean, it's right there. Why should wealth play a part in whether or not you stay in jail? It should be a system that, does the safety checks, does the fairness checks, will this person have programs to reintegrate into society in a more helpful way. It also talks about like counseling programs and that kind of thing, drug help programs. So all in all, this is what progressives want. Progressives want change to society that is thoughtful and will help everyone, you know. And not only will it help everyone, it'll help the way like our budget is balanced, which I found extremely interesting, right?
Yeah.
You know, people always say, "Oh, progressives just want to spend your money and they want to, you know, ruin the bail industry," right? So it was interesting that 6 California counties, Alameda, Fresno, Orange, Sacramento, San Bernardino, and San Francisco, all in all, they spent $37.5 million over a 2-year period, jailing people who were never ever charged or whose charges were later dropped. And that's from a Human Rights Watch report. So take in some of these numbers, you know, let's just do a quick summary.
Imagine what we could do with $40 million.
Yeah. In Fresno. We went to Fresno recently. No comment. Sorry. But my point is that, look, 3/4 of jail inmates are unsentenced. You got to think about, you know, how weed laws have affected, you know, racial minorities. You got to think about how that is, you know, used to then, you know, further violence against these communities.
Absolutely.
And
felons lose the right to vote.
Yes. Oh, great point. And all in all, this is going to just change and challenge that system, because this is, like we said earlier, one of the only states that has ever done this. And now we have change, physical, tangible change,
real change.
Good job, guys.
Loose change.
We have to thank the
How much
progressives.
is that? 75 cents? 80 cents?
Progressives who changed the discourse and changed the people's minds. That's what did this. So, congrats, guys.
Yeah, that's a lovely little story, you know. I'm glad to see it. I voted for this proposition when it was on the ballot, so I'm glad to see that the Supreme Court's taken matter into their own hands.
That's another interesting part.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
But yeah, let's get into the sandwich. The sandwich today is going to focus on the For the People Act, which is HR 1. That's another term people, you know.
HR 1 sounds cool.
I saw it like as like I'm forgetting the name right now, but there's a couple names for this thing, but we're going to call it the For the People Act.
I like HR 1.
He's going to call it HR 1. I'm going to call it the For the People Act.
Human Resources 1.
Yeah, that's right. Human resources. But yeah, so I think the best way to describe this particular piece of legislation is to read some excerpts from the When We All Vote letter that was sent out. I think this is also kind of like a cultural document. Like, this is a call to arms.
I thought it was, I'll be honest, I thought it was kind of lame at first when I first saw it, because that's kind of just who I am. But then I read through it and I saw the names that were signed on, and it was like actually kind of a significant document that really summarizes the current situation, you know, that we've been experiencing and what could happen if we don't pass this bill. So this is definitely a solid piece of content right here.
Absolutely. And the other thing about it too is I think it's just worded so well.
Yes.
That I like spent, you know, what I originally was going to do was not read directly from it and just kind of, you know, paraphrase or whatever. But I was like, these words are too good to paraphrase.
It's well done.
So
Michelle Obama, let's just say, right? The number one signature on this is Michelle Obama. So
yeah, her and Valerie Jarrett, who's chairman of the board for When We All Vote, they are the principal framers of this document, if you will.
Yeah.
Going back to some constitutional language, but yeah, so I'm going to start at already this year, Jack Tunney. Whenever you're ready, just tell me when it's up on the thing. Are our pretty faces up on the thing? No. Now we're good. Okay. So I'm going to read it. Already this year, in state houses across the country, more than 250 bills spread across 43 states have been introduced to further weaken our democracy and make it more difficult for Americans to vote.
This is already insane, right?
Yeah.
Like, look at what's going on.
250 bills, 43 states. These bills seek to make it harder to register to vote and cast a ballot by limiting early and mail-in voting and setting up more barriers that particularly impact Black, brown, and young people. Some of these undemocratic measures have already become law, with others surely to follow. What's happening is this. After more Americans than ever voted in the last presidential election, some state leaders believe that silencing them is the only way to maintain their grip on power. They're hoping to choose their voters rather than the other way around. And if we as Americans stand idly by, if we wait for others to act, or we refuse to do so with anything other than clear purpose and full-hearted patriotism, they will succeed.
Damn.
That's a long sentence. Our nation was founded on the idea that as citizens, we should be able to determine, our nation's destiny. Generations of Americans have rightly organized, marched, and died to defend that ideal. Expand voting and civil rights to women and minorities, a story that continues to this day. Today, the moment calls for us to take up the patriotic call to protect and expand those rights once again. And that's why we must rally behind behind the passage of For the People Act. Really couldn't read that.
Peepo.
For the people. And then I just wanted to read some of the things that it's doing. And that's this section here that's bullet pointed.
In the bill?
This is what's in the bill. That's what's going to happen if it passes.
Awesome.
So this is going to expand automatic voter registration, adding as many as 50 million people to the voter rolls.
Awesome.
Expand same-day and online voter registration for federal elections, which are especially important for young people and first-time voters.
Super awesome.
Allow for pre-registration for 16 and 17-year-olds so that when they get their driver's license, like when you go through that whole process, all that documents you have to sign, whether you're going to be an organ donor, right? You could just put right then and there whether you're going to register to vote. And then when you turn 18, that is an automatic process that is done.
Super awesome. Also, let them vote.
Let the 16 and 17-year-olds vote. I'm with that as well.
Yeah, I'm just adding on. Don't mind me.
Yeah, I'm just adding on to the congressional legislation.
Yeah.
I'm just tacking it on there.
No, but like look at how far that they've already gone, right? And then, I'm just adding on, okay, get some extra credit, right?
Yeah.
They're going far with this.
Require 2 weeks of early voting for federal elections, including on the weekends and after work. Increased access to vote by mail, so no American has to decide between making their voice heard and earning a living, taking care of their family, or staying safe during a pandemic.
Awesome.
Also, tied in with this, they're trying to make Election Day a national holiday,
Finally.
which makes it easier for Americans to cast a ballot. On this, actually, when I was working the polls on Election Day, there were a lot of people who showed up after work, and there was a huge rush. After 5 p.m., it was like 5:36. A huge rush of people who were trying to vote. They shouldn't have to work a full day and then go stand in line for an hour.
Yeah.
Just to vote.
And then at our polling station, because if you remember, for the long-term fans, we
saw each other.
We met there, and did election fraud together.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tons of election fraud.
But it was it's a small area. So imagine being in in Georgia,
right?
In a city, any city,
or
any
in
college town.
Louisville, Kentucky, where there was only one polling station for the whole city.
Or UCLA, where there was only one polling station. Remember that?
Yeah.
So it's this is a nationwide issue. But continue. Get through that.
They want to restore the right to vote for people. The right to vote for people with felony convictions, which disproportionately impacts minority communities. We were talking about that earlier. Strengthen federal criminal penalties for those who misinform and intimidate people at the polls.
Nice.
Overhaul our campaign finance system to give ordinary Americans a greater voice in the political process and afford a more diverse array of people the opportunity to run. And last and certainly not least, ban partisan gerrymandering and discriminatory voter purges.
Yeah, the details behind that last point are so amazing. They're going to do an independent council, make it bipartisan, all the works.
Yeah, and just the last piece of this I wanted to read is an attack on the filibuster, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about later, but I just want to read it while I have it up. So they say, we applaud the House for passing this bill, and now we urge the Senate to follow suit and do its part to protect our democracy. And if that means eliminating or instituting meaningful reform to the filibuster, a relic of Jim Crow and an arcane chamber rule increasingly abused to create gridlock and forestall progress, the Senate should act. We cannot continue to allow the will of the majority of Americans to be overshadowed by an oppositional few fixated on maintaining power. Because make no mistake, as a recent poll showed, large majorities of Americans support this bill across party lines, including more than half of Republican voters.
Oh, I put that poll in there.
Yeah, you did. But yeah, so last thing to do on that, just scroll down and look at the names that are co-signed on this. As you can see, lots of celebrities.
Some of your favorite rappers.
Michelle Obama, co-chair, you know.
Tom Hanks
you
is a
got, you got
co-chair.
Kerry Washington in here, Janelle Monáe, Alicia Keys, Tom Hanks, all sorts of people.
You got Phineas from Phineas
you
and
believe
Ferb.
it?
Is it
They
Phineas?
got Lin-Manuel Miranda,
Oh, wait, really?
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
the actual Hamilton.
Oh, wait, Martin Lawrence signed this?
Yes, dude.
Oh,
That's
now
what I'm
we're
saying.
really going to get change.
Yeah. Nick Jonas, dude. Regina King.
Fat Joe.
And, you know,
The Shack.
Of course, people might look at this and be like, man, they're just some celebrities. Who cares, man? Who cares about them?
You can put us back up.
But, you know, I think it's important that our cultural, I'm not going to call them heroes or leaders, cultural figures.
That's a good word.
Yeah, they're standing up and, you know,
Title.
they're using their power and their platform for progressive change, which is literally all I ask for. So, good job, guys.
Yeah, no, you're doing good. I mean, use your voices. Do the best you can. Don't overstep, but, you know.
Don't speak for others, but speak. This is how you speak for others. And this is why I've moved like a lot more towards like how good a direct democracy would be in certain cases, because people always complain, you know, oh, government won't solve the issues. Government can't know the information. The way that government is going to get information and listen to public opinion is if more people vote. The only way we're going to get things we want is if more people vote. And the only way we're going to have a more genuine country that is more representative, even of the other side, right? If more people vote. I like that this bill, like they say, it's not partisan. It's not party lines. We literally are doing common sense reform for everyone. Ooh. This bill is going to help Republicans get elected. I also want to talk about another great thing I like. My favorite part of this bill is the campaign finance part. That's going to help progressives like tenfold. I don't know exactly what the number is, but they're going to like match donation funds. So if you get $100, they're going to give you $1,000. Like the federal government is going to subsidize these campaigns. And of course, that's going to help Republicans, but that's going to help so many progressives. Like,
yeah, and I also think one of the main barriers between running for office and not running for office, especially for younger people, is money. They say that to run for Senate in the state of California, you have to have $1 million in spending money.
Yeah.
Your own money.
Minimum.
That's aside from donations.
Wow.
Your own money, you need to have $1 million.
Wow.
So, like, that is why there are all these elites and these rich people in that office, is because it's impossible for someone who's, you know, lower on the economic scale. Not impossible. Ocasio-Cortez did it.
Yeah, we're doing it, but
It makes it much more difficult for younger people with more progressive ideas to get into office and make real change.
Yeah, because who's going to put $1 billion into the person who is trying to raise taxes and bring the Green New Deal, right?
Yeah.
You know? So obviously that's going to happen. And people will complain, oh man, but that's also going to help the rich person, isn't it? Isn't it going to give them the same bonus? Sure. But it's still going to help the bottom so much that, you know, we kind of got to take what we can. I don't think that's as much of a problem as people will say it is, because they're going to get the billions of dollars anyway, right? What is this extra going to do?
Yeah.
So.
I don't think it's a major issue, but
yeah. So I think
this seems like pretty reasonable stuff, common sense stuff. It seems like no one in the world would be against this, right?
This is what America is supposed to be doing.
Well, guess who?
No.
Guess who?
Let's guess.
Who's back?
Who is against democracy? Who wants to take voting rights away from minorities? who wants to add obstacles to representation?
It's not Fled Cruz, is it?
Well, Flood Cruz is, but I'm thinking of a more specific title.
Oh,
here.
there's a specific one. Oh, okay. This is a game.
This is the bad boy.
Most racist person in
naughty.
Congress. I'm not sure. It's a hard game. That's
okay. You're right.
There's
You're
a
right.
lot of them.
I'll give you this.
There's like 2 flip-floppers that like...
His name has alliteration in it.
What?
I knew it.
Come on,
Mitch McConnell?
Money Mitch.
Is it the leader of the goons?
Moscow Mitch
It's the leader of the goons.
has been blocking this bill since March of 2019.
His hand is on everything.
2 full years he's been sitting on this bill.
Imagine blocking this.
He said that this is the most he didn't say this. This is the most comprehensive anti-voter suppression legislation since the Civil Rights Act. This man says
Voter suppression.
Yeah. This man says it's an atrocity. This bill is an atrocity.
all of that awesome hope-filled stuff we just said, this guy responds with atrocity. Atrocity alert.
Of course, this is just classic Republican tomfoolery. Okay.
Tomfoolery.
As I say it a couple times a show for the most part, but when a party actively tries to prevent certain peoples from voting, it's because they fear the power of the true majority.
Yeah.
And they do. They're afraid. And the true majority in America is liberal and reasonable.
Yeah.
We're not all leftists, but the majority of Americans believe in liberal thought.
Yes.
It's statistically proven.
Human rights.
Yeah. I can't actually blame the Republicans here though, because
What?
they're trying to prevent their own personal apocalypse.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because you have to think about all of the the industry, all of the people who have their their lives built around these ideologies and livelihoods, as in their incomes and stuff. Which is a little tangent, but that's why I thought all of the prophets who are I prophesize that Trump will win the election. It's and then they come back and they have to stick to it because their whole career is centered around them, being wrong. Essentially, so it's it's hilarious to watch them scramble.
Yeah,
because that's what this is.
Yeah, no, it's a scramble. I think I think it might be time. In fact, I think it's long past time.
Oh,
that these Republicans realize that they cannot choose their own voting populace. The voters choose you. That's what it says in the letter. The voters choose you. You cannot continue to gerrymander and to make these congressional districts perfectly fit for Republican wins.
Yeah.
You cannot continue to do things like this to purge voter rolls, to make it harder for minority voters to register to vote.
Yeah.
These things are actively anti-democratic.
And then you got to think about the I'm going to call it a pyramid that forms. Okay, you got a gerrymandered local district, and then they use that gerrymandered district to win the state election, right? And then they use the state board that is, gerrymandered, and then
to gerrymander more.
They use it to pass awful bills. I'm going to go for example, abortion. They'll use it to pass some kind of abortion bill, and then they'll use that bill that is unconstitutional according to the Supreme Court, and then they'll take it all the way up to the Supreme Court. And then if the Supreme Court will revoke that bill, that gerrymandered local district has now affected federal policy. That literally happens.
Happens all the time. It's happening right now.
That's why it's such a trigger warning, and it's so disgusting to talk about, but abortion and rape is what they're focusing on in this exact scenario, and it makes me so sad.
Yeah, no, it's sickening. Wasn't there a law just passed that if you're voluntarily intoxicated, you can't be raped?
Jesus, Lord have mercy on us.
It's ridiculous.
What
I
the
have
fuck?
some stats to lighten your spirits.
Please bring that in, please.
Yes. So, Mr. Money Mitch, he's from Kentucky, right? That's Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know he's like the majority. He was the majority leader, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
currently the minority
He's the
leader.
minority leader.
People would say he's one of the top
so, like, tell me
Republicans.
why the like representative of all of the states that are, you know, quote unquote Republican,
Yeah.
they picked a guy from like the 26th most populated Republican state.
Because he's a good statesman.
I guess so.
So there,
He's good at what
I
he
don't know
does.
if
Yeah.
he knows like does he just think everyone is like the 1.35% of the
No.
U.S. population?
No, he's good at
That's
what he does.
Kentucky is.
yeah, I think historically, you know, choosing things like majority leader and minority leader and that kind of stuff
just
generally is seniority.
Yeah, it's
True.
just,
So
you know,
if you've been in the Senate for a long as fuck time, like Mitch McConnell
so
has,
if you've used the dark force,
yeah,
the
to
dark
to
side,
keep
to
alive,
keep yourself alive.
Some may call it unnatural, but that leads to some abilities.
no, but it just makes me sad. I wish it was like they went off of who had more people, so it was always like one state. Then we'd have Ted Cruz as the minority leader.
But
That'd be lit.
I think the part that you might be missing is that Mitch McConnell is like maybe not. I would say he's like the center of Republican thought. Like most Republicans would agree with the things he's done and his stances. So sure, it's seniority, but people want him there. Like
Yeah.
he has supporters. Like he literally has supporters. So it's
Money Mitch.
It's people like him, which is very confusing for us
Those
to.
people aren't getting a lick of that salt.
But yeah,
What a phrase.
It's true.
I love Tunney because you always pull out like a random boomer phrase that I've never heard before. You got like all these classic. You love classic stuff.
I love English that way. There's a bunch of like stupid things to say, and it means something very specific, and
Pitter
it can
patter.
also be very yes.
But
And if you were someone who learned it as a second language, you would have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about.
yeah,
No. It's lovely that way. But let's talk statistics.
Man,
So this piece of legislation.
That's my exit.
Yeah. This piece of
Actually,
legislation. All right.
I
Okay.
gotta change to go to work.
Be on your way.
no.
We love you.
Love you, Tunney.
According to 2021 data for Progress poll, that's a fun name. American voters broadly support this legislation. This was said kind of in the letter, but 67% supporting the bill. Even after participants were provided with opposition messaging, which means like, you know, they get some of the Republican talking points on this, like,
I got one.
go.
Do you want murderers to have the right to vote? What if they legalize murder? What about the Boston bomber? They're gonna legalize murder. That's what they gonna do. They gonna vote. They gonna vote murder. They gonna vote for murder.
They gonna
What
vote,
does that mean?
They vote for murder.
You know, like what does that mean?
Yeah, so they showed these people opposition messaging, and they still stayed steady at 67% support. And then 77% of Democratic voters support this, 68% of independent voters, 56% of Republican voters support this act. There's absolutely no reason that they should be not supporting this bill. Why are they fighting this bill? Tell me.
If you support public opinion, if you want public opinion to be represented, if you want all people of all races, backgrounds, wealth levels to be involved in politics, if you want a more representative system like that, you support this bill. If you don't, then you don't want those things.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
want
clear.
them to come out and make arguments that say, I don't want people to vote. Because they're way too scared to say
And that
it, right?
brings me to my next segment regarding the filibuster.
Ooh, they are way too scared to actually say it out loud.
Yes. So as we know, the senators have the power to extend the debate on a subject indefinitely. This is known as the filibuster. And this was changed a few years ago. It used to be that you'd have to stand up on the stage and speak continuously without bathroom breaks. I think without food breaks. I think you can eat up there, but you have to keep speaking while you eat. I think that's what it is. But yeah, famously, Bernie Sanders did this. Ted Cruz did this one time where he read like
Green eggs and ham
to his kids at bedtime. That was like a super famous moment. So that used to be how it was. That used to be how it be.
That's how it be, fam.
But now what it is that essentially it's like a tool. So they just say, hey, we're going to filibuster this. And they don't require people to stand up on the stage anymore. But and it still requires the 60 votes, the cloture, they call it, to end it. So basically it requires that there be a bigger majority on like every piece of legislation, which the Democrats clearly don't have. We're at 51 in the Senate. We don't have 60.
It's hard to come by in general.
Very, very hard to come by a 60-person majority in the Senate. It's very rare.
Yeah. People like to say like you have to get 60 votes to actually pass something. That's why. When people argue for bipartisanship, they're trying to get past the 60 limit, right? That's the argument.
That's the moderate argument for sure. Is like reasonably, if you think about it reasonably,
logically,
which Republicans don't. But if you think about it reasonably, we are, this is the type of thing that you would get some.
It would encourage.
You would encourage some moderation, some back and forth.
Yeah.
You get this, we get this, right? Compromise. It's this crazy thing. Doesn't exist right now in this country, but it's this crazy thing.
Yeah, not for me.
So one would think that you could manage to convince 9 Republican senators to vote with the Democrats to end the filibuster if you give them things that they want. The trouble is, the things that they want is this bill not existing.
Yeah. They want the
they want it gone. They just want to get rid of it. So when as you say often, if the middle ground between 0 and 50 is still 0 to the Republicans. Yeah. There is no middle ground.
Yeah.
This is one of those instances. They're not looking for a middle ground here.
I mean, you said 0, but let's, just take your example. They're going negative. We look in Georgia, the 250 laws that they're doing in 43 states. They're actively working against this bill. Yeah. Currently.
Yeah. So at the lower levels of government. Yeah.
Exactly. So not only are they apathetic to it, I guess they're actively enemies with this bill.
Yeah,
enemies of representation, enemies of democracy. If they are against this bill.
Okay, so why are they against this bill? I guess many of the arguments, or against ending the filibuster, I should say. Many of the arguments against ending the filibuster, has to do with the danger of the majority, right? And leaving a defenseless minority against the big bad 51 vote majority in the Senate. I point these defenders of the filibuster to the Federalist Paper number 58, written by the principal drafter of the Constitution. This is a guy you all love, James Madison. He writes, and this is very flowery language, so you'll have to forgive me. It has been said that more than a majority ought to have been required for a quorum. That basically just means more than a majority to get a vote to pass. Okay? So a 60-person vote.
Oh.
More than 51, right?
I misheard. For a quorum.
For a quorum.
The word is a quorum.
Yeah. And in particular cases, if not in all, more than a majority of a quorum for a decision. That some advantages might have resulted from such a precaution cannot be denied. So James Madison is there's some advantages to this, right? It's a little bit slower form of government. You need more people to pass some things. He's like, there's some advantages. However, it might have been an additional shield to some particular interests and another obstacle generally to hasty and partial measures. But these considerations are outweighed by the inconveniences in the opposite scale.
For sure.
In all cases where justice or the general good might require new laws to be passed or active measures to be pursued, the fundamental principle of free government would be reversed.
Yep.
It would be no longer the majority that would rule. The power would be transferred to the minority. Were the defensive privilege limited to particular cases, an interested minority might take advantage of it to screen themselves from equitable sacrifices to the general weal, or, in particular emergencies, to extort unreasonable indulgences.
That is exactly what we're experiencing. Holy crap, bullseye. Holy crap, a bullseye.
James fucking Madison in the 1790s predicts partisan filibuster problems. Okay?
It would no longer be the majority that would rule. The power would be transferred to the minority.
Yeah. And they use fancy words like the general weal, which just is kind of like the general well-being. You know?
Screen themselves from the equitable sacrifices to the general weal.
Yeah.
Bruh. That's exactly what they
Or
do.
in particular emergencies, extort unreasonable indulgences, like them tacking on amendments to necessary bills to make it impossible for Democrats to vote for them.
The poison pill.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. I mean,
So he hits this directly on the button. And then, you know, it's a flowery argument, but in modern English, I guess, the argument is that no more and no less than a majority should be used in deciding the laws of our nation. Tyranny of the minority is something we've run away from since our nation's conception.
that's it. There's a lot there, honestly, because like the power of minority comes in many different forms, right?
Well, the Senate was made to be powerful for the minority.
Yeah.
The minority at the time, which was small states.
And I used to think that makes sense, but I've learned that there are so many problems with like the filibuster, for example. But I was going to mention, you know, we left Britain because the king, which is a power by the minority, one person.
Tyranny of minority. Yeah.
Tyranny of the minority. But also the king was uplifted by his royal servants and the, you know, elite class or whatever. So it's like, it's almost like the same kind of environment where we have people who are protecting, you know, the elites and protecting all of these old things that, like you said, we've already run away from. It's the same exact monster in a different clothing, in a different game, I guess I'll say, you know? So we have to realize what we're looking at when we look at this. Like, look at what we just talked about. These people are working together to take away voting rights for, what was it, 50 million people? 50 million new voters?
Mm-hmm.
Explain that. Explain that. It's anti-democratic. It's almost, you know, like it's in favor of a king. It's in favor of a leader like that. It's in favor of like all these things. So
Yeah.
there, and I don't know. Respond. Don't let me keep talking.
Yeah, no, it's a crazy thing. Particularly the filibuster. And I don't have a major problem with the filibuster itself, just the method that it's being used. So like, rather than have somebody stand up on the stage and really enumerate their points and spend a long fucking time defending the minority position, which is what they've done in the past, you know, they don't do that anymore. Now they can just table it and pretend it doesn't exist, like they're doing with this one.
Yeah.
So the current Biden proposal that he brought up in his press briefing, is to return to the speaking form of the filibuster, which demands that the minority continue to speak nonstop, like in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I don't know if you guys ever saw it.
I've seen that.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun movie for sure.
To which Lindsey Graham said, "Then I'll speak till I drop."
Oh.
To which I say, good, man.
Yeah, it'll take like 30 minutes.
Yeah. At least, you know, in their defiance, like, Like their defiance will be more public, better understood. It'll force them to show some fucking gumption for the first times in their lives.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, please defend this.
I'm more than happy, Lindsey Graham, to have you up on the stage speaking until you drop, trying to defend removing the right to vote from certain people. Like, go ahead, bro.
I also like what you were saying earlier. Like, it'll turn into like a media event too. Like,
oh yeah, you know, CNN would cover start to finish a Lindsey Graham filibuster.
Yeah, and it'll, you know, get people involved and have people actually, you know, having opinions and debating and learning.
Yeah.
So I agree with you that the filibuster has been, you know, totally corrupted and misused for a long time, especially when we look at the history of it and what it's been used for in the terms of like civil rights and everything. And I get why it makes sense. It does make sense, but it hasn't worked. Like, and people can disagree with my take on that, but it really has done more, like James Madison said, it's done more to stop it, to stop things than to do good things. The consequences of having the filibuster have been more impactful than the positives of it. So in my opinion, I think we need to scrap and redraw. I do think the speaking filibuster is a good compromise because, like we said, it's good to see them argue it and we love to see them argue it, but it's done more to stop than to do more good things.
Yeah, and if it was put into the Senate to stop votes, like that's what it's for.
Yeah.
And like I understand the purpose of it. It's just it needs to be moderated, right? Like it can't just be anyone filibusters and then this bill is done. We're done talking about it.
Yeah, I think the requirement of 60 is kind of weird in that sense. Like why does it have to be 60 every time? Like why does...
Because that's what's required for cloture by the Constitution. So it's like one of those things.
But I thought the filibuster came
by parliamentary law in the Senate.
Yeah, but also as we learned, and there's been debates about the parliamentarian, right? Can't you change the rules of the parliamentarian? People were like challenging Kamala to change the parliamentarian rules so they could do the minimum wage and everything. So I think another point, and this is an anti-conservative point, I think our systems of government are a lot more malleable than we view them to be. I think we have a lot more power to change things than we believe we can. And one, we've seen the effect of our change, and two, we've already like changed the future prospects like of our movement. So I have felt like filled with so much hope recently, even though things are dark and scary and disgusting. We have so many good things and so many hopeful things to look forward to, such as this bill. And the fact that they're getting so mad about it proves that it's good, right?
Yeah.
If it was weak, if it was stupid, they wouldn't care. This challenges them, and it challenges their power because they know, like I said earlier, it's a paper tiger. You just freaking blow it over. You get people the right to vote. Here I go. The campaign finance thing, again, is so important to me because it just empowers people. It gives people like a feeling of being involved. It gives it opens the door. It gives them the access. It just lets more people play their role. No longer will we see a conversation dominated by guys in suits, right? Like the person that works all day at a factory or whatever could have the money from the federal government subsidizing a campaign run on his days off. And that's literally not possible in our current situation. So that would be a new good thing that this bill would do. That would change lives.
And let's get it. I'm going to call my congressman. I'm getting involved.
Well, I think they support it, but the filibuster thing we just kind of talked about, I don't know if I'm going to call anybody.
I'm going to call my congressman and tell him to end the current iteration of the filibuster. How about that?
Yeah.
Call your congressman. Or I don't know. Don't call your congressman. Do whatever you feel.
Call him. Tell him, hey, be louder about this. That's something also. Last thing, I promise. I feel like, why are they so quiet? A lot of the senators are just so quiet.
Yeah, you only really know 15 names out of the 100.
And some of them seriously are House members, right? You know what I mean?
you probably know more House members because they're a little bit more vocal. But
yeah,
the Senate is just not a very vocal chamber.
Why do we only know Bernie and Elizabeth Warren and if you're lucky, Chris Coons and like
Chuck Schumer
and the Republicans. It's and you know more Republicans, right? So it's like
I do would have more Republicans in the Senate.
I couldn't name more than 8 Democrat senators off top. If I had like a list I've studied, probably do better. But I wish they would just use their platform a little better. I mean, we got rappers and movie stars coming together and doing this program.
Fat Joe, dude.
Fat Joe. When's the last time you seen him get political?
I've never seen him get political.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna stop rambling, but this is power in action.
Facts. Power to the people.
So
let's talk about the milk. I promised you guys a Zack Snyder's cut of the Justice League review last week. Now, I will tell you that
there were some vetoes. There was a filibuster. I really tried.
He tried to get rid of it, but
I tried to filibuster.
I'm creative director.
And I'm the director of creation, so
yeah, but
we compromise.
Sometimes we do. Sometimes we
I tried to filibuster.
He was unsuccessful.
I didn't really.
I like how you
you didn't notice and you didn't delete it. Oh, that's funny though.
Yeah. So the first line of this little review that I have is, Brandon really liked. I'm gonna let Brandon read it in his format.
Okay, fine. Well, this is Peter's writing, an amazing writer. I read it and I felt it. That's why that was a natural response.
Yeah, that's why for sit rep I'm probably gonna write some critical stuff for movies and stuff. Be a little critic.
And this is an excerpt from writer Mr. Whitehead. The fans wanted it. They campaigned for it. And now they finally got it. And then I put a little water emoji.
Yeah, that's for the splooge. Yeah. So this is a 4-hour epic that attempts to bring a conclusion to the Snyderverse trilogy that started with the Man of Steel movie way back in like 2009.
Yeah,
that movie?
That was a hell long ago.
Yeah. So the plot of the movie is an alien warlord named Steppenwolf, who spends his time conquering planets and turning them to ash and fire, comes to Earth seeking the mother boxes. The Batman, who had a premonition about invasion, is trying to piece together a team of heroes to defend Earth. So I was a huge Justice League animated series kid. Like, I loved the animated series. I'm obviously a huge comic reader. You guys know that from like all my Marvel stuff that I've talked about in the past.
People talked about the show like it was like a really good show with like a plot and everything, right?
Yeah. No, the animated series, the Batman animated series, the Justice League animated series, and to some extent Batman Beyond. I like Batman Beyond less. Yeah. But those 3 animated series are like real fucking shows. They're cartoons, but they have like real human dilemma problems in them, like faced by these superheroes.
On Cartoon Network.
Yeah. They're actually all on HBO Max now, which is what Zack Snyder's Justice League is on. They own DC. So they have all the old DC content on there. I've been enjoying that.
HBO Max has everything.
Yeah, seriously. So Zack Snyder himself said this film was an exercise in indulgence. And my God, did he deliver? Jesus Christ.
That's funny.
I mean, this movie ends, right? Like ends. Conflict resolution done. And then there's a full 15-minute segment after that.
Of what?
Of just pure fan service, dude. Just pure fan service. I'm not going to say like the things that were in it because I think they're a little spoilery and I don't know, but they threw heroes in there that like I hadn't even thought about since I was like 8 or 9. They put like all my favorite villains were in this movie. They like rapidly updated the CGI. They updated the story particularly Ray Fisher's Victor Stone, aka the Cyborg. Huge story update. It's like they left his entire plot out of the original cut of Justice League. And actually Ray Fisher talked about that, said that he thinks that it was somewhat a racist move because he's a black man. He's like the one black character in the movie. That's not true. He's the one black guy on the Justice League.
Well, Michael, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I literally forgot my question.
God damn it. But yeah, Ray Fisher, he said that he felt that the Warner Brothers executives cut his story and his character development because of his race. So that's been a big deal recently in the news. And
my question was, like, so this Snyder cut, they filmed the movie already, and then
they filmed this movie way back in 2017.
And they cut a shit ton out, right?
So,
or did they cut some out of the script and these are like refilms, or like, how is this?
I should have explained that. You're right.
Yeah.
So Zack Snyder was in charge of the DC Extended Universe. He created Man of Steel, which was the first Superman movie, Batman v Superman, The Dawn of Justice.
Yes.
And then had plans for making Justice League 1, 2, and 3, a Cyborg movie, the Flashpoint movie, a Ben Affleck Batman movie. Okay, so this was going to be a whole...
I remember that.
A whole universe that was suddenly just like into existence.
Ben Affleck Batman. Ben Affleck Batman.
Yeah.
I remember that year.
Yeah.
I was there.
So he was making Justice League and his daughter died. And so he stepped away from the project. A new director stepped in, Joss Whedon. He actually directed the first 2 Avengers movies.
Okay.
Joss Whedon stepped in, made the movie, and it was a garbage pile. It not only was it a garbage pile, it was actively on fire. It was a terrible fucking movie. All of my favorite characters barely had plot line. Like the Flash didn't have a plot. The Cyborg didn't have a plot. Fucking Aquaman barely had a plot. Those are my favorite Justice League members. Screw the big 3.
Okay.
It was just terrible. And so the fans, that's me, I'm fans.
Yeah, he's
demanded that we see the Snyder cut.
Yeah.
The original director with the original plan for the Justice League. So then there was a fat campaign for that for like 2.5 years.
Use your voice.
And then they finally did it. They gave him credence to go back and do it. He only reshot 2 shots of the film. The rest he had already shot. He redid the CGI, I think, and a couple of other things that he shifted a little bit. And he shifted some order of the scenes.
Editing.
But practically, this was the film that he wanted to release. And he just added extra stuff because he felt like, if I'm going to release a 3.5 hour movie on HBO Max, it might as well be 4 hours.
Yeah.
So,
no, I think an exercise in indulgence is a really charming thing.
Yeah.
Like,
and it was, I mean, like, I sat in front of that TV for 4 hours and watched that movie, and it was totally worth it.
Yeah.
It was totally worth it.
That's great.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm really fond of this film. I think that's basically the roundabout of it. Of course, now that we've seen this film and it is confirmed not canon in the DC universe, it is a one-off project to finish up Zack Snyder's trilogy, and they weren't going to continue with his work.
Sad.
So now, of course, the people who love Zack Snyder's Justice League are like, restore the Snyderverse. Bring me back the Cyborg movie. Bring me back the Batfleck movie.
Batfleck.
Bring me back, the Flashpoint directed by Zack Snyder. So, like, basically, they're the kid that got the one cookie, and they're like, give me the fucking jar.
Or they got like half a cookie, and they wanted the rest of the cookie, and then you got the whole cookie. Now you want the whole jar.
Yeah, and by these people, I mean me. I'm also these people.
Yeah, he's fans.
I'm fans. Of course, this is not impossible. You know, I think more than half of the reason we got this movie, like Zack Snyder's cut, was because of the fan demands. So if we demand hard enough, perhaps they'll put him back on those projects. I mean, he loves DC. He loves those characters. Like, he really cared for them. And I'd love to see more of what he has planned. Because the movie ends on a cliffhanger.
But what?
Yeah.
How? Four hours in a cliffhanger?
Exactly. Because he had planned to make Justice League Part 2, Justice League Part 3.
True.
Justice League Part 2 was going to be a nightmare movie in which it takes place in the future after the Apocalypse War occurs and Darkseid takes over the world. Superman goes bad. They were going to have a whole movie set in that world.
That'd be cool.
I would have loved that.
You're
So
really
whatever.
taking a stand here. You're taking a stand here for
Yeah.
more Justice League.
I'm taking a stand for Batfleck
Mostly.
and for Henry Cavill's Superman. I love them. And Ray Fisher's Cyborg. Fuck, bro. That he was so good in this movie. They really did him dirty. Like they seriously did. Joss Whedon and Warner Bros. Seriously did him
Like
dirty.
you feel what the guy was saying.
Yeah, because he was the best part of the new movie, and he was literally a background character in the old one.
Damn.
So
My question. I have one more question.
Yeah, please.
A few weeks ago, you were talking about like, I know this isn't Marvel. You were talking about like the new era of Marvel. Would you say that this kind of scratch that same same itch? Do you have the same
Yes.
feelings for DC?
If Zack Snyder is given back control of this universe and he makes movies like the one he just made, I'm in 100%. I'll watch every single one of those movies. I'll watch the HBO Max specials. I'll watch the TV shows. I'll watch the shorts. I'll read the prequel comics. You know I'm there. But yeah, I'm less excited for this like Warner Bros. Like bullshittery where they're like not really connecting the films. The films are only slightly connected and like,
Oh yeah.
fuck that.
No, yeah.
Do what Marvel did or don't do what Marvel did. You fucks.
And last point. That points out how like culturally significant like Marvel was. Like that, it's crazy. All of those movies are literally a saga. Like
Yeah.
Like that's the modern saga. What other sagas do we have?
Lord of the Rings is considered a saga.
Yeah,
Harry
that's
Potter
old.
is considered a
Old.
saga. Star Wars is considered a saga.
Dated.
Dated.
What are we talking about?
Avengers, Marvel.
Avengers is the 2010 saga of a generation.
Yeah, it's
That shit's
huge.
pretty cool.
It's 23 movies. 23 movies.
A lot of fucking movies.
It's gonna be 24 in July.
There's a lot to respect about that.
Yeah.
There's like, you know, creativity wise and like job wise, like actually, you know, making a movie like that ain't easy.
No.
It ain't easy to write that story. Well, the story was written from comic books, right? But it ain't
Well,
easy.
they adapt it though, so it's you can't tell a straight comic book. I mean, you could theoretically, but that would be less fun, right?
It has to be different.
So yeah, so there's like the comic book that Batman v Superman is based on is called The Dark Knight Returns. However, it varies drastically from there. Some of the story points are there, right? Batman fights Superman, you know, but they cut out a lot of characters because it's a movie, and you know you can't have all of the comic book characters that you put in a comic book, right? Because for a comic book, it's as simple as drawing his face in the frame.
Yeah.
But for a movie, you have to hire actor, pay an actor, write his lines, you know, so
Give him adequate screen time.
yeah, as they didn't
As
with
they
Ray
won't.
Fisher.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Usually don't do that part.
all in all, I think this format of storytelling, the 4-hour like epic like parts in movies, like I think there's a you know a platform for that. Number one, I think there's an audience for that.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, you know, superhero not my style always. I love a good epic.
One of my favorite movies of all time is There Will Be Blood. That movie's like 3.5 hours long. There's practically no conflict in it. It's all just slow burn dialogue.
Yeah.
Watching this man's descent into madness. Like, that movie's fucking fantastic. So I would love to watch 4-hour movies, 5-hour movies, fuck it, 6-hour movies, dude. Because that's what they used to do when you go to like a playhouse and you watch Shakespeare. That's like a 6-hour event.
Yeah.
So
And it's a lot of content.
yeah,
It's dense.
that's what I'm trying to see. Write me acts, dog. Where's the 5-act structure? It's gone.
I want
There's
epics.
a 3-act structure now.
I hate 3-act. Oh, let's get into. I hate 3-act. I need 5 acts.
I need 5 acts.
I need an intro act where nothing goes wrong. I need the second act where stuff begins to go wrong, but everything's still chill. You got the third act where shit goes to hell. You got hell. You got stage 4 hell. And then you got 5, which could be any.
Resolution.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
could still be hell. If it's Shakespeare.
Zack Snyder's Justice League had a 5-act structure.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
Did it have like breaks?
It had 5 parts and then an
That's
epilogue.
sick. Oh, that's fire. That's fire.
So yeah, no, that's the kind of shit. Send me more. Send me more, Hollywood. If you're listening, send me more.
So, but basically what we said this episode was, let us vote, and if we could vote, we would vote for more sagas, more epics, longer movies. So we're pretty clear, I feel like, you know.
Yeah.
We have needs and we want them to be met.
Yeah. I want more Zack Snyder Justice League.
I want the Batfleck.
I also want the Batfleck. He's pretty good. I don't mind Robert Pattinson as Batman, though. I'm still hyped for that.
He's so sexy.
I think that wraps up our show. Go watch The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and expect a review possibly on the first 2 episodes next week.
Movie review section.
Yeah, that's what the milk is turning into.
I like that.
I'd like to thank our producer, who's not here, but I'm pointing at him anyway. My co-host, our editor,
Hey.
and you guys, the audience. And we
Pointed to a bunch of people.
See
Are not
you
here.
next week.
Nobody's there. Nobody's
Now we have
there.
to like stop the.
Yeah. We gotta go
That's
walk
gonna really
around.
walk all the way over there because he's fucking not even here.
Leave it in.
Oh.
Different microphone.
Good shit. Yeah, that was a good one.
105.